Municipalities around the country owe Eskom a staggering 30 billion rand. Of course, this is money that the power utility desperately needs to maintain infrastructure and keeping the lights on. Well, at the SALGA Energy Summit, the sole focus is on how to maintain South Africa's energy needs. So let us now cross over to Palesa. She is there this morning, and I think her first guest is Parks Tau. But let's get more details from her. And of course, Parks is the president of SALGA. Palesa, good to see you. I suppose this is a lot resting on this one. I mean, that is a huge sum of money owed to Eskom.
Well, it's a huge money indeed, Leanne. A very good morning to you and a very good morning to our viewers. As Leanne rightfully said, we coming to you live this morning from the Sandton Convention Centre in Sandton here in Johannesburg. We're here for the third and the final day of the South African Local Government Summit that's focusing on energy. Of course, you would remember that the summit comes just in less than a month after we've seen the SONA debate where SALGA was basically raising concerns on the major transitions and the disruptions that are happening in the energy sector, of course, not just here at home, but locally as well. Leanne made mention of the debt owed by Eskom, by municipalities, which is just over 30 billion rand, with Eskom saying that really this is beyond their control. Some organs will have to come in and assist in this regard. But let's just take this conversation further, as you said, Leanne, with SALGA President Parks Tau. He joins us now live from the Sandton Convention Centre. Good morning to you, Mr. Tau. Thank you so much indeed for coming through.
Thank you very much, and good morning to you.
Now, I've sort of painted a picture about the summit, but just give us the objectives really behind the summit, as I made mention of the major disruptions that you made mention of during the SONA debate.
Well, the South African Constitution prescribes that local government is responsible for the distribution of energy, in particular electricity and gas. And this industry is undergoing a major transition, and this transition impacts significantly on local government. Starting from, of course, the advent of load shedding, the significant increase in pricing. If you think about it, it's been about 500% increase in pricing for energy and electricity in particular in South Africa, and the reality that we've made commitments to the Paris Climate Accord, the Sustainable Development Goals, therefore, an undertaking to introduce green and cleaner energies, and that means that South Africa is going through a transition that we need to plan and manage as local government in particular. And the idea of this summit was to enable our local authorities and our members to prepare for this transition, to introduce new technologies, to think about what investments need to be made in energy, but also to think about how you adopt and implement the new technologies.
But talk to us about the discussions. I know that we can't really dwell on the resolutions because it's the final day of the conference today, and I believe that the resolutions will only be passed in. But alternatives to what we're currently using, because we're reliant on coal energy as it is now in South Africa, what are the stakeholders saying in terms of alternatives that are there?
Well, one of the major developments is the significant decrease in pricing for photovoltaic energy, and that means solar electricity is available to both municipalities and the consumer, but also to Eskom, and of course independent power producers. And we need to think about how we incorporate that into the future of our energy mix as a country. Our view as local government is that we should be able to incorporate it in terms of the ability to interact and transact directly with independent power producers, and whether this is solar or wind or any other energy sources, our local authorities should be able to engage this and enter into transactions. So part of what we're discussing here is what are the policy and regulatory changes that are needed to enable local government to enter into such transactions. The second is how to ensure that we can develop new financing sources for local government to be able to implement some of these significant programs, but also how do we deal with the reality of what many of the speakers have said over the past 2 days is an environment where we have prosumers, so to say. So people produce and consume energy. So people are able to install their own energy sources in their own homes, literally putting up a photovoltaic panel in their homes, generate electricity and energy, and they have excess energy. there is the possibility that this could be on, where there's excess energy, this could be on-sold to our local authorities and therefore distributed into the grid. And these technologies are available, and we'd want to prepare our local authorities to be able to implement this.
All right. Just a quick one. Let's get SALGA's response on this debt owed to Eskom by many municipalities in South Africa, an amount over 30 billion rand. Eskom saying that it doesn't look like municipalities will be able to cover the costs.
We have been engaging with national government through an interministerial task team convened by the Ministry of COGTA, and we're active participants in this interministerial task team to deal with what we say are institutional and systemic problems that have to do with the debt. Some of the issues do have to do with some municipalities withholding their payments, and we think that that needs to be confronted. But in most instances, we're dealing with systemic problems that need to be resolved with Eskom. This has to do with the interest charges that Eskom imposes on municipalities. It has to do with how we deal with problems in relation to what's called notified maximum demand, where there is a particular limit to the amount of energy that's supplied to municipalities. And if demand exceeds that, there's an interest penalty that's imposed on local authorities. And we think that some of these issues require a more comprehensive solution between both local government and national government.
All right. It certainly looks like it's not an easy one, Dadito, but we'll leave it at that for now. Thank you so much for coming through, and all the best with the remaining hours of the conference.
Thank you very much, and much appreciated.
Thank you so much to Pakstawi. He's SALGA president, of course, talking to us about the importance and the objectives behind the summit taking place here. All right, let's take you back to our studios in Johannesburg for the latest in sports. We'll probably see you in the next hour.